All right, folks, we're getting a clearer picture of how much money some 2020 candidates have raised so far. The first quarter fundraising deadline shows Bernie Sanders is in the lead with more than $18 million. He's followed by Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, and Andrew Yang. Though we should note some entered the race at different stages and have not had the same amount of time to raise the money. So how these campaigns are raising money is the subject of this week's episode of the Where Did You Get This Number podcast. Host Anthony Salvanto, my man, spoke with CBSN political contributor and Democratic strategist Linda Tran for the episode. And Anthony joins us now. He's also the CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys. Always good to see you.
Thanks. We don't always get to be in the same studio.
So you know how I like working with you.
Yeah.
All right, so first up, these top Democrats are reporting a majority of their donations came in through contributions of $200 or less. What's driving the apparent switch from big money to small contributions? Because you think that, it would be in large amounts as opposed to $200 or less.
That's the perfect question because this is the big story of this campaign so far. We've known for a long time Americans always rail against big money in politics. One of the ways they're pushing back is by giving money. And that's one of the things we unpack on this episode of the podcast. What's happened is this move towards small donors. And we're watching it on the Democratic side now because obviously they're getting ready to run in this primary. But, Republicans have railed against big money too, just to sort of say it's on both sides. And what's happened is it's become so important that even now the Democrats have made getting small donor donations into a criteria for qualifying for their debates. So if they get 65,000 contributions across 20 states, a candidate can get into the debate, and it's not just reliant on polls anymore. And that's trying to put that emphasis. They're trying to put that emphasis on what they call that grassroots building. And so that's one of the key dynamics to watch this year. We'll unpack that a little bit.
So where does American opinion stand on big money in politics?
Yeah, well, they usually don't like it, right? But if you pull back a little bit, we talk about how it's not just that it's expensive, right? A lot of things are expensive, and heck, I can't afford a Ferrari, but it's still okay that they're out there, right? Some people can, okay. But what they don't like is that it's exclusive. And people don't like politics being exclusive. So it seems like this push towards small donors is now a way that people feel like they're getting involved in the process. So it's not, we talked to Linda Tran of 270 Strategies. I talked to Michael Barber, he's a political scientist out at BYU, who studies this, talks about the psychology of giving money, how people feel like they're participating. They're not necessarily going to get something in exchange, but what it means to form that attachment. And then, Linda talks about this, and Carrie Levine talks about this as well. They say, there's a dynamic out there where the campaigns are really trying to hook into those voters who'll give money because Linda calls it the ladder of engagement. Then they say, well, that person might also walk a precinct or go knock on doors. And they're trying to find these people who can organize too, because it's so important now to try to build that support early on.
So speaking of psychology, how are, these campaigns sort of targeting voters?
Yeah, those lists become really key. When you think about it, DeMarco, we're going to give this a lot of attention, but it's really only a small percentage of Americans who are actually going to vote in these primaries. Not even all Democrats are going to vote in the Democratic primary, right? So you're looking for that 20 or 30%. That means once they find that person, they've got that list, and then they're going to follow them, and they're going to call them again. Maybe they want them to donate more. Maybe they want them to help organize, maybe come to a phone bank. That stuff, the campaigns really build all these models of who they're going to target and how they're going to keep those people engaged, and that becomes important. And almost in some ways, it's going to become like a leading indicator for the polls. I like this stuff better than polls. I'm the pollster, and I'm saying that. It's really interesting to hear all these people who are on the ground doing it and talking about how they're trying to get that organization going now to sort of build out what will happen come next January.
All right, and a final question for you. How important is fundraising at this early stage in the game, especially when you have so many contenders?
It's important. Look, campaigns are expensive. The fact is they're competing for attention with everything else that's out there, whether it's the latest movies and TV shows or, people's attention in all sorts. That takes money, and people know that takes money. So they've got to build that war chest now, pay those people to go out and organize eventually, and this is key. Those smaller states, New Hampshire, Iowa, et cetera, they might be less expensive to compete in, but then they get out to Texas, California. Some of those primaries have moved up. That means big, expensive ad time. That means buying advertisements in big media markets in Dallas and LA. That's money, man.
Got to have the Benjamins.
That's
right?
money.
Anthony Salvanto, thank you, and always good to see you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marco. You too.
All right. And the episode of Where Did You Get This Number is available right now. You can hear it anywhere that you get your podcast. So make sure you listen in.